Good evening, Facebook family, YouTube family, wherever else you may be listening to the empowerment platform. I'm your host, Tyra Shivers, coming to you tonight once again just to give information, give advice that will empower you to reach your goals and live your life, whatever that may be. And today, I don't have a guest, it's just me. And I won't be before you long, as you guys are probably celebrating Easter, celebrating Resurrection Sunday, being with your family, your friends. We're all in the house for the most part due to COVID-19. So it's a very, very different time that we're living in. And my question for you today, just something to think about, something to put on your mind is, how are you living? How are you living? How has COVID-19 changed the way you're living? Has it changed the way you're living? Are things different for you? And I think about some sermons that I heard. I listened to a couple of sermons yesterday and today, and being it Easter Sunday and Resurrection Weekend, Good Friday, and just the whole story of Jesus Christ. And I took from those sermons, how am I living? Am I truly embodying the tenets of the faith? Am I loving people the way that Jesus loved people? Because if you know the story, and you can find it, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, different iterations of it, but it all came down to the same thing. For just over 3 years, Jesus came, was born. He ministered during those 3 years with his disciples, and he healed people, and he really, really showed love. Are we showing the same type of love that Jesus showed us? Are we loving despite what someone else does? Because oftentimes we live in a world and a society where we love only when somebody loves us and they're treating us right. And the minute someone does something to us, we kind of fall and we don't really love them anymore. We just move on. So my question today is, do you have that love that surpasses what someone may be doing to you? Do you have love for your enemies? For those who talk about you, for those who mistreat you, for those who seek to harm you? Do you have love for them? Do you have unconditional love for your spouse, for your children, for your relatives, for your coworkers? Not a love that is dependent on what someone does for you, but a love that is independent. I'm going to love you regardless of how you're treating me at this time. Have I humbled myself? Another thing that Pastor Anderson from Bridgeway Community talked about, two things that Jesus did. He emptied himself, meaning he gave up his godly attributes to die on the cross. All the power, all the glory, everything. He emptied himself so that he could take on the mantle of being 100% God, 100% man, and then die on the cross. And not only did he empty himself, he humbled himself. He could have came, as Dr. Anderson said, as a king. He could have came as a warrior. He could have came as a general. He could have came as so many different things, yet he decided to come in a manger, poor, picked up working class people and fishermen. He didn't pick up kings, and he didn't pick up princes, and he didn't pick up the best scholars around. He picked up fishermen. He humbled himself. Do we humble ourselves at all? Do I humble myself? Have I emptied myself? Have I gave up everything about me? And not to say that you can't be proud of who you are, or you shouldn't have self-esteem, none of that. But how can you be filled with Christ if you feel with yourself? How can you give and sacrifice if you're trying to get all the time? And I've been thinking about that over today and from yesterday to today, thinking about God gave his only begotten son, the love that it took to do that. And for Jesus to humble himself, to accept it, to come. He asked if the cup could be passed. And then in the end, he said, not my will, but your will. Whose will are you serving today? Are you serving your will or are you serving his will? How can you show more love? How can you empty yourself of yourself? How can you get out of your own way? How can you lower and be humble so that God can exalt you in due time? What else is empty? The tomb. We know the story that three women went to the tomb, saw an angel, he said he was gone. Don't fear. He is risen. Go and tell Peter and the other disciples. So when he rose with all power, all glory. How does that translate for us today? If we're believing in him, if we're believing that he died and that he rose, why is it that we still struggle with the pride of the inner man? How is it that we still struggle with envy? How is it that we still struggle with selfishness? Now think about when they went to the garden and Jesus prayed and he told Peter and them to wait for him, that he came back, they were asleep. He went again and prayed, came back. Of course, he chastised them. They were asleep. And he told them that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So in the times that we're weak, we have to remember to lean on him that is strong. Lean on his principles, his teachings. Remember to just love. If you try to, and we can never outdo God, but if you try to outdo and just try to give everything that you got to loving others, to serving others, to working with others, I'm quite sure that your life will take a huge, huge turnaround from wherever it may be. And you may be successful. You may be doing well. You may not be struggling in any kind of way. Things may be going good for you. But I submit to you that if you empty yourself, if you humble yourself, if you follow Jesus, and if you try to love your neighbors, if you try to help your neighbors, if you try to be of value, if you try to serve, things will come your way beyond your imagination. And I just know that in this time where we're all together in the house, where all our lives have been impacted by COVID, whether or not you had someone get sick, whether or not you had someone that you know to die, whether you have someone that has lost their job, any of those things, still your life is being impacted. All of our lives are being impacted. We have to figure out in this time, what are we doing? Are we enhancing our relationships while we're in the house together with our families? Or are we in separate corners trying to figure out what are we going to do not to drive each other crazy? I ask that you look at every single moment as a teachable moment. Pull the lesson from everything that happens. See what you can do differently. How can you love more? How can you give more? How can you spend more time with each other and make it quality and valuable time? Because what we don't want to do is sit around and Netflix and chill and be on our phones looking at Facebook while you may be here looking at me on Facebook now. Don't do it all day. Block your times off to be productive. Block that special quality time off to be with your family, to be with your spouse, to be with your kids. And if you're with other extended family, you may have your parents with you. You may have cousins with you. Whomever is with you, love on them, nurture them, humble yourself and serve them. Figure out how you can do for others what has been done for you. And you have been loved, and you are loved. If you are out there and you're listening and you feel like no one loves you, Jesus loves you. He died for your sins and mine so that we may have everlasting life and have a communion with God. So you are loved. I love you, even if I don't know you. Because as I grow and as I learn, nobody out there is for me to be envious of. I don't have to be better than anybody else. I don't have to want what you have. I have my own path that allows for you to be successful and it allows for me to be successful. We both can make it. We both can grow. I can serve you without having to get something in return. I can empower you without having to get something in return. I can share information, knowledge. I can be kind without having to get something in return. So I issue a challenge. I challenge you to give more, be more, serve more. I challenge you to be humble. I challenge you to empty yourself. Happy Easter, Steve. Glad to see you on, brother. You as well, Brenton. And because I think about these things a lot. I sit, I listen, I read, I listen to many different pastors. And I just look at really the story of Jesus as someone who came to serve, to do the will of his Father, and do it so unselfishly. And then you look at the disciples and you look at Paul and you see that they weren't perfect. My goodness, if they didn't do a lot of things that we do today. And they had arguments, they had disagreements, but then they learned to humble themselves and serve. And if you know the stories of them, if you really, really do your biblical history and you study the early church fathers and early history, many of them met, if not all of them, a terrible demise. They didn't live the fabulous life, but for them, they found peace and joy and comfort. And I think for us today, we are often bogged down by things, possessions, paying the bills, getting to the next stop, running from here and there. And we forget to sit back and just be joyful. Having joy is different from being happy because a lot of times we try to find happiness in things. And when you don't get that thing that you worked hard for, that you think you deserve, you're unhappy. But when you have joy, a peace about you, anything can happen and you will look for the positive way out. And that takes work. And I'm not saying that I got it because I look at a lot of things that I'm like, man, why am I still in this position that I'm in? Why is it so hard? Why do things seem to come against me all the time? Why doesn't it work out right? Why is it not perfect? Or why is it such a challenge? And I had to remind myself that even my challenges are nothing compared to the challenge that Jesus had to come, empty himself for us, heal the sick, touch people, and still have a group of individuals that wanted to crucify him. And what did he say on the cross? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Still showed love, still served. He didn't call the legions of angels he could have called to come down and bring him off and be powerful at that moment. And I think we have to really think about that when we go through our trials in life, when we go through our temptations. If you read scripture and you go through the New Testament, you will see that Jesus went through a lot of what we go through today. Temptation, people hating you, people calling you a liar, whatever you can think of, he went through it and still goes through it today, because people still at times we can't be peaceful in our differences. You have to be ugly with it. So, are you prepared to empty yourself, to be humble, to serve, to give, to teach? Think about that. During this COVID-19 season, because this is a season, it will pass. We will go through this and get out of it. And then there will be something next. So we have to always be prepared. We have to always think in the terms of what can we do during this season to grow? How can we continue to love and care and serve and be willing and be a vessel? Who's willing to sacrifice? Who's willing to give more than what they get? Who's willing to take the back seat and not to be in the front? The definition of sacrifice on Webster is the act, and I picked this one because we know it could be sacrificing an animal, a plant, different things. But this is what I really like in this definition. The act of giving up something that you want to keep in order to get or do something else or to help someone. So what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up that you want? Because if you have and you give, you're being generous. But if you lack and you give, that's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to take food off your table when you don't have food and you give it to someone else. And I've heard many stories of people giving when they didn't have to give. When they didn't have food, they gave their last meal. And then all of a sudden, someone knocks on the door and they have meal prepared for them. Because when you give, it will be given to you. You will get it back. But you got to believe that. And it's got to be pure. No ulterior motives. You can't hate to do it. That's why with tithing, if you struggle tithing, if you wonder about the 10%, you really need to go into prayer and ask God to show you. Ask God to help you with giving, sacrificial and generous giving. Don't worry about the priest or the pastor or the church or where the money's going. Have a conversation with God about giving and see where that turns you. Are you willing and able to be humble and to give, to serve? I also want to, and it may touch one or two people the wrong way, but it is what it is. It's the truth. Take this season of COVID-19 serious. I see a lot of people out there not taking this serious. People are still going out. They're still having fun. They're still being in big groups of people. If you with your family and you have a big family, then your family stays together. But to read or to hear about 500 people being together at a party makes absolutely no sense. To see pictures of people parked miles down the street, all the way down, and they're watching cars race. No sense. Take things serious that are serious. There is nothing to be gained. No birthdays lost. I mean, if you have a birthday party, skip it. You will have one, if it's appointed to you, another one next year, and you can have a party. Why risk family, health, safety for a party? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We really have to think and do and just have a thought process before you act. Because what we know is this is real. People are getting it. People are dying. Whether you believe that or not, it's real. So you should take precaution and safety measures. And that goes out to the churches too that are still trying to have church with 20, 30, 40, 50 people. Take it online. You can do a Facebook Live just like I'm doing, and your congregation can get on there and they can listen to you. You do not have to pile people in a building to get together and to risk their health. God never asked us to do that. God is a God of order and decency and common sense. He is not telling us that the faith will get you through and you do what you want to do. God allows us to live according to his will and his purpose and follow the logical rules of the world. You can have all the faith you want. And I think it was Dr. Miles Monroe who I heard say it, but I've heard other preachers say it too. You have all the faith you want, but if you jump off a building 20 stories, likely you will die. And that's because of the law of gravity. So I'm not a hyper faith person to say that I'll do whatever I want to do and God will get me out of it. That is not how that works. So for all those people whose pastors are saying, we will pray and you come to church, read your word and think very, very carefully about that. What can you do? What are 3 things that you can do next week that will show that you have emptied yourself, humbled yourself, and that you're ready to serve? And who can you do it for? Think about how often or how much time do you dedicate to your loved ones? And I mean uninterrupted time, whereas you and your son or you and your daughter or you and your spouse or you and your parent, whoever's in your household, how much uninterrupted time are you giving them? And what are 3 things you can do next week for them? I know my sister is on. One thing that I decided to do was make sure that I have regular communication with my sister. We haven't talked a whole lot over the years, and we kind of reach out every blue moon, but I want to make sure that I send her a message at least once a week. To bring back and build up relationships. And nothing's wrong. We've never fought or had an argument or that anything go wrong where we just kind of, I guess she living her life with her family, I'm living mine, and we kind of just don't talk. So that's one thing I decided to do is make sure I message my sister, see how everything's going, see how they're doing. Who can we serve? And I keep saying it, serve, serve, serve. Because oftentimes we just want, and we want to be served. We want to receive, but we don't want to give. What can we give during this season? Who is it that you haven't spoken to in a long time that you can speak to? What relationship can you repair? Because if we're all home, I know that essential people are still working and we pray for their safeties. But if the majority of people are home during this time, what relationships can you repair? Who can you forgive that you've been withholding forgiveness from? And if we all do that, if we all seek to serve, to love, to put aside differences, then think about how the world will come out of COVID-19. Because right now we want to come out of it as we want to go back to work. We want to get our finances right. We want to pay our bills. We want to do things that we've been doing. But what if we come out of COVID-19 with a renewed spirit of love, of care, of hope, of generosity, of mercy, of forgiveness, of being slow to anger? I think this period of time is one of the greatest times to work on your personal and self-development because we have time. The excuse is always, I don't have enough time. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to run here. I got to run there. I got to go to work. I got to take the kids to activities. I got to cook. I got to clean. I got to wash. I don't have enough time. So for those of us that are not working, you have a full 8 hours available to you that you didn't have before. And even if you're working from home, you still have some time there where I highly doubt if you've been working from home, you have a routine. But if you're brand new to working from home, I doubt you sit at your computer 8 hours a day straight. I just doubt it. So take some of that time. I've been hearing some people say that they're working out more, doing 2 and 3 a day workouts like they're training to go to the NBA or to the NFL when this thing is over, but they're doing something. How can you be a better you so you can serve others? And sometimes you just have to be in solitude and sit in silence and think. Maybe this is a time period where God decided to slow some people down. Rip and running, going here, we can't even just sit and listen. But now maybe this is the opportunity. Maybe this is the time. Is this your appointed time? What are you supposed to be doing in that time? And how can you come out of this better for you and for others? Because you're blessed to be a blessing. You receive to give. There should be a portion of everything that you get that goes back out. And you don't want to have a hoarder's mentality. Well, I got to keep my blessings tight because I might not get it again. You don't want that type of mentality. If you're blessed, you want to be a blessing. You want to make sure that you're helping others. Hey, Aunt La Phyllis. So think about those 3 things. Think about what 3 things you can do in the upcoming week for someone else. Or think about 3 things you can do to repair a relationship. Or 3 things you can do to grow. And remember, it's about emptying. Jesus did it. It's about humbling. Jesus did it. And it's about serving. Jesus did it. So if we are followers and believers, why should we not do each of those things every day in our life? And just change your perspective. Let's create true win-wins for everyone. And I know and I understand that times are tough and times are hard and things don't go according to plan. I mean, everything that I've tried to do and everything that I wanted to do has not went according to plan. Things just don't work out the way that you think they should. But how can I be better? How can I do better? How can I make things right that aren't right? Is my question. How can I continue to move forward in the midst of everything going wrong? You just have to ask yourself those questions. Because we all have something that is going on in our lives. And even with COVID-19, that's an addition because we all had something going on before then. And I think this is a time that we can really just sit down and resolve those things that we've been struggling with, the things that we need to make a change. And if you're on and you have a question or a comment, feel free. I'm just talking. Because my points are humble. Well, empty yourself, humble yourself, and serve. And then find 3 things that you can do for someone else next week, or 3 things you need to do to repair a relationship, or 3 things you need to do to be a better you. So if anybody has a question or a comment, I am happy to discuss it, to figure it out, to think together, to pose it to the audience. I do have a question for the audience, who's ever out there, and they can respond. I was thinking of not doing these live, but pre-recording them with guests and then posting them up. And I need to know from my audience, which do you prefer? That doesn't mean that I won't ever go live on a Sunday evening at 7 to spend time with you. But I did want to know how you felt about if I took it and had a guest, because sometimes guests just aren't available to go live 7 p.m. Sundays. And I was thinking about, well, maybe I can record it and then drop it in on Sunday. The only thing that happens with that is if you have questions or comments, you won't be able to do them live. You have to drop them in on the video. I'll look at it later and then come and respond. So think that through, whether you prefer it live or whether recording will be fine. My man. We were supposed to get on the game. Man. Me and Alan go way back. We were supposed to play some games this weekend. Didn't get around to doing it. But I got you. We'll get on there, spend some good time together. Oh yeah, most definitely, Alan. You could send what I could do is, if I thought about, get a topic together, then I will put it in the group. What questions you might have for that host or for that guest, and then I can ask the questions and we could do it that way. So yeah, we could definitely get questions in before I spoke with them. Yeah, that'll be cool. Okay, so that's good. I see people are saying either one. Yeah, because there are some people that have wanted to have on, and Sunday evenings just aren't good for them. They are more available throughout the week or their schedules change so often. I kind of have to catch them when they're good. So if they were good on one day, I could record it, drop it in here, and that way, because there are lots of great people out there that I have access to and that I come in contact with that will just deliver phenomenal messages and help all of us grow, because that's all I'm here for, is to just for steady growth and for empowerment. Far too long have we lived the lives of just working, doing, and not really feeling empowered and not feeling like we have access to information. And with the internet, even though you have it, if you don't know what to look for, that it's just a fire hose just going off and spraying you, and there's nothing you can do with it. So I definitely want to bring people on that I know can pour into your lives, that will give great content, great information, and people that are seeking to serve, basically. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up into things have to be perfect and we got to have it a certain way. I always want to keep this more of a family feel. I always want to keep it regular, like we're having a regular conversation at the house. I never want to make this seem so scripted to where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm going on a talk show and everything's got to be prepped and prepared and done. I want it to be real for you. I want the empowerment platform to be real and to serve you. So what are we thinking about on Resurrection Sunday, where he rose? What are we thinking about the sacrifices that he gave? How his story allows us to tell our story. Because without his story, our story is irrelevant. How through his sacrifice, we forever have the ability to always have communion and connection with the Father. But it's more than that. His story serves as a blueprint of what we should be doing every day of our lives. Emptying ourselves, humbling ourselves, serving, and loving others. We can make all the money in the world, have all the things in the world, but without those to enjoy it with, without those people to share it with, there will always be that thing in the back of your mind of something that's just not right. Let's see what you got, Alan. How to be better, more controlled, forgiving, and understanding, not vindictive and petty. Alan, you know, we talk about this often, you and I. The way to get beyond those feelings, I think, could be one is spend some time in reading the Bible. And I can give you some chapters, some books to start in, but read for a purpose. Because a lot of times when we read something, we just read and we kind of just blow through it. But read for a purpose and look for exactly what you asked for. How to be better, more controlled, forgiving and understanding, and not vindictive and petty. As you read these chapters, I want you to focus on that. And you will see that when you pray, because sometimes there's some things that we just in us can't do. No matter how bad we want to do it, we got to have God open that up for us. We got to have God just bless that just bless us with that spirit of forgiveness, and boom, drop it on us. And then bam, before you know it, you won't have those feelings anymore. And you have to start to ask yourself, what do I gain from being vindictive and petty? Because oftentimes people are mad at people, and not specifically you, but just experiences in life. I know that most of us have probably seen where people are mad at people that one don't know, and if they do know, they probably don't care, and they live their life while you are still holding something in your bag. Some you It's almost like if you go to an airport and you get a bag of bricks and you fly from one destination to another, and you wonder why your bag is so heavy and it's burdensome, and then you open that bag and you're like, oh man, I got these bricks. Where do these bricks come from? But you get on the next flight and you take that bag, and you get on the next flight and you take that bag. And what you do is you run into people in the airport and you say, man, this bag is so heavy, these bags of bricks. And the people are like, you have the concerned ones that say, okay, where'd you get the bag from? Maybe you should just let it go. And you say, well, man, I really want to let this bag go, but somehow it came into my life, so it's mine, so I need to carry it. And you continue to carry it. And then you run into the people who don't care that you got that bag. And you're saying, man, I got this bag of bricks. And you carry this throughout your entire life while people around you move on with theirs. Forgiveness really is not for the person who did something to you. Forgiveness is for you, because that person is gone and they're living their life. You are still holding on to something that people are not even thinking about. I think about a lot of situations that I didn't make the right decision in. Now I think about the people that it affected. And I wonder if those people ever even think about what I'm thinking about. You can be mad at people for something and they don't even know, but you're the one that's mad. Or when you're looking at people and you think they have bad intentions, or you create a situation that, oh, I don't like that person. They gave me these bad vibes. That person may not even know you. So how can they give you anything? It's something that you are putting on yourself. So empty yourself, humble yourself, and seek to serve others. And then if you do that, if I'm too busy trying to love you, if I'm too busy, I got it. Oh, I got it. Don't worry about, I got it. If we spent all of our time trying to live out or have a good life by serving others, loving others, caring for others, if we spent our life trying to honor God, if we spent our life trying to honor what we've been taught that's positive, we won't have time to be vindictive and petty. If I take myself to the soup kitchen to serve every Saturday evening, and I'm doing from 6 to 8 o'clock, I don't have time to go club. If I'm busy minding my own business, or if I'm busy caring for others, I don't have time to be vindictive. If I'm busy forgiving, I don't have time to be unforgiving. They say that idle idle mind is the devil's workshop. That's because you're sitting around thinking of what could go wrong. And we know that the brain and the mind is going to think or push us towards something. So if you are busy taking in negativity, taking in evil, taking in bad things, taking in crime, taking in hate, remember what somebody did to me 10 years ago. If I'm busy thinking about that, I will create the very situation that will bring that about in my life. And it's not because woe is me and it's something wrong with me, but it's because I am creating the environment for the very thing that I don't want to happen to happen. Now, on the other side of that, if I spend my time personal development, reading positivity, finding good things about the situation, living a good life, serving others, loving others, reading the word, reading books that give me positivity, that build me up versus tear me down, then I will naturally put myself and my environment will give me the things that serve that side. That's why when you see, and it's easy to see with wealth, but it's also easy to see with happy people, they surround themselves with like-minded people. And if you see a negative person, they try to bring that negativity in the crowd that they're in and make everybody else negative. And if you feed it, it will grow. So for vindictiveness, from pettiness, from not understanding, war with your mind, with yourself, go to war with that and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore because I don't want to bring that environment to myself. And what you have to do is disconnect from relationships that cause that. Now, nothing works if you stay in the same situation, in the same relationship, and you just keep going through it over and over and over and over and over again. At some point, you have to say, you know what? And I think it goes all the way back to what we were talking about, emptying yourself, humbling yourself, and serving. You know what? This relationship that we're in right now, it's just not working. And I don't know how to make it work. Now, if you're willing to work and I'm willing to work and we're willing to seek guidance, and this can be for relationships, this can be for marriages, this can be for friendships, this can be for family, familiar relationship, whatever, co-workers. I think that if we be honest with the situation, a lot of times we're not honest. If we be honest with the situation and we say, you know what, look, you work over there, I work over here. We have this common job that we need to get done together. And for some reason, it's just always contention between us. I don't know what it is. Did I do something to you? Did I say something that you didn't like? Because if I did, let me know so we can have a dialogue because we need to work together in order to get this done. Now, if you are not willing, then we need to figure out how we can separate and be cordial. I have no hate. I'm not vindictive. I'm not looking for anything to gain. All I'm looking for is to live my life as positive as possible. Have that conversation with whoever in your life that you feel like you have some kind of contention with. Because sometimes people, there are going to be relationships that you can't repair because the other party isn't willing. But at least you could say your piece and move on and be happy. Because either they're living their life and moving on, or they're holding on to the same type of grudge, but it does not make you do not have to live in unhappiness because of someone else. And if you know that you tried and that you said your piece, or it may be a situation where you can't say your piece. They just absolutely not going to answer the phone. They're not going to hear from you. They're not going to do anything. What you have to do is you have to pray that God release you from that. Whatever you did, you pray for forgiveness. You allow God to forgive you because he forgives you if you ask. Forgive yourself and then move on. And then you move on to do what? To empty yourself, humble yourself, and serve. If you are doing those three things, you have absolutely no room for anything else. You don't have, if you're too busy trying to love people, you don't have time to hate people. If you are too busy working to do your best to give, to serve, to help someone else get ahead, to grow, you won't be spending your time worried about why they did this to me back in 1998. Because there are people out there, they live their whole life. They live their whole life holding on to grudges for people that sometimes these people are dead and people still mad with them. And I'm not saying that I got it all figured out. But I do remember Paul saying, take every thought captive. Every thought. See, a lot of times when we read the Bible, and this is especially for believers, non-believers may not read, or they may read and they try to find something wrong with what's being said, or they just don't believe. But I don't care if you believe or you don't believe. If you read the Bible, it has some principles in there. And I can guarantee you whatever positive principle that you have heard, seen, I can go get it out of the Bible. Now, that being said, I absolutely believe that even believers read through the word and gloss over the principles. We often read and we just say, I don't know if we just think they were just talking to be talking or just saying some stuff just to be saying it. But if you look at certain things like take every thought captive, take every thought captive, that means they are telling you that you will have some thoughts that they're not going to be right thoughts. You're not going to have the right thought. At that time, take it captive. Change it. Choose a different outcome. Choose to move in a different way. Be angry and sin not. You will get angry with somebody, but sin not. I remember a couple of years ago, it was several years ago, a couple from my church, I want to say it was in a Bible study or somewhere, but it was just talking about couples. I was talking about, getting upset with one another, having disagreements and arguments, and how each couple, I can't really put my finger on exactly how the conversation went, but what I remember from them was they said that when they get in an argument, they don't argue or they don't fight. And that is because they first think about God. They think about honoring God first, and that dissolves all the anger, the hate, the unfair fighting, the negativity, and then they're able to talk and work through whatever disagreement they had. Not that they didn't have disagreements, not that they didn't think about arguing, but when they did, they reminded themselves, is this honoring to my God? Now, if you're listening, you're not at the point to where you think about, is it honoring to God or not? Think about it to yourself. Is this something that I want to continue to be in my life? Is this something I want to continue to lord itself over me? What can I do? What can I say? How can I be different? What challenges do you have? What are some things that you're holding on to that you can release? And how can you release them? It's time for a good many of us to release some things in our lives that we've been letting keep us held down. It's not the man, it's not the job, it's not the bills, it's not my main cousin down the street, it's not my ex from 1990, it's not the repo man coming to get my car, it's not those people who always want to keep me down. But what are some things that you are allowing to hold you back, to keep your life in bondage? What mental prisons have you built for yourself and blamed other people for it? And believe me, I'm not saying that people don't wrong you. I'm not saying that people don't do things to you. I'm not saying that life may have dealt you a hard, harsh, and bad hand. I'm not saying that you don't struggle. But what I am saying is, are you keeping yourself in that struggle? What decisions have you made? How can you come out of it? How can you empty, become humble, and serve? Emptying yourself, when I first started this, it was more so to talk about emptying. It's got to be all about me. But now I'm transitioned to, have you truly emptied the things that are holding you back? Are you afraid of the hard conversations that may be needed? Because I guarantee you that those hard conversations, when you have them, they will set you free, whether or not you are still connected to the person that you had to have that conversation with. And I think oftentimes, even when somebody's doing us wrong, even when the relationship is just terrible, we still want to be connected. I think that as you humble yourself, as you empty yourself of these relationships, as you serve others, know that you are enough. You are enough. You don't need anybody else to validate you. That only true validation comes from above. Only person that love you despite all your faults, that knows all your secrets and still loves you, is God. So knowing that, There shouldn't be a relationship that you can't have an honest, heart to heart conversation with and move forward. I think we often think about the could have beens and should have beens with a lot of people. And we don't release that. Release it. Think about how holding this benefits my life. And if it doesn't have any kind of benefit, break the connection. Les Brown says, OQP, only quality people. Surround yourself with quality people. And I've shared this before, and I will continue to share it because it's just a part of my story. I wanted a relationship with my dad so much so that when we had our conversation, I asked him the questions that I needed to ask. I had already made up in my mind to say that no matter what he said, I was going to forgive him and we were going to move forward. I did not want to continue to harbor thoughts that would keep us separated that I didn't even know if was true or not. Now, he could have decided to say whatever he wanted to say and then move on and we not have a relationship, but we had a conversation and we moved forward. And there are a lot of people out there that, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your parents, or whether it's your children, there's a conversation that needs to be had so you can move forward. And this is a little bit easier with friends, co-workers, and not blood ties. You know, you could cut them off. You can move forward. It's not, you don't see them every day. Well, if you're a coworker, you might see them every day. But that, to me, that's not an absolute necessary relationship. But for those ones with marital issues, with parental issues, figure out a way to empty yourself, humble yourself, and serve that person and just see what kind of change that makes. There was a movie called Fireproof. It's about marriage, and they were going to get a divorce. It got so bad. But the challenge was for one spouse, and I can't remember which one. I can't remember if it was the husband or the wife, but they served the other one despite what they did, what they said. And it brought the relationship back. Kill them with kindness. And that may not work for every situation, but I guarantee you will have a peace of mind when you know that you did all you can to serve someone else, that you humbled yourself and you emptied yourself and you gave everything you had, and they made the choice to move away, to not allow healing to happen. At that point, you will be healed and you will be able to move forward, and you will have a peace that even if the relationship does not work, you will have a peace knowing that you did what you could do and you'll be able to move forward. And I know that there are some relationships where people have passed on from this world and you didn't get to have that conversation. I would advise you to have that conversation in prayer and ask God to release the burden. Because what happens is that absolutely, Willie, healing is for you. And what happens is when you carry burden from one relationship to another one, you are impacting the new relationships for relationships prior that they didn't have anything to do with. And you create a cycle. You create a cycle. So if you take every thought captive, everything that you think about, and you're trying to be better, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to serve. I'm trying to love. Change. It will change your entire perspective. It will change your entire perspective. And there's just something. I feel like there's something that I still need to get out. I just can't put my finger on it. Because I have a lot of friends that when we talk, we go over, what's going on in life situations, and there's a lot of hurt out there. But not only is there a lot of hurt, there's a lot of hurt being held on to. So you make it a choice. And at any moment, you can make the other choice. Take every thought captive. Empty yourself, humble yourself, serve and love others. 3 things that you can do next week for someone. 3 things that you can do to repair a relationship. 3 things that you can do to strengthen a relationship. 3 things that you can do to create a new relationship. Because a lot of people have connections but no relationship. A lot of people are together with no relationship. I think it might have been Les Brown who said, "Are you living together or are you dying together?" Are you living together or are you dying together? And I like this one. Really takes place and change when you decide to be better for Christ. Because if I'm living to serve God, and if I'm living to do the best I can do for Him, the rest of the world does not affect me or my decisions. There's no bearing. Well, I like this one too. Takes us right back, willing to serving, to giving, to loving, to humbling. And oftentimes I see that people are trying to get so much because they have been taken from so much. So they are just trying to get back what they feel like they deserve. But it's forced and it's not in love at that point. Or you try to do so different than what's been done to you that it's forcing you fall right back into that same cycle. You make those same decisions. But again, if we empty ourselves, give up all the past, empty ourselves, if we humble ourselves, make ourselves low. Not that you don't have self esteem, not that you're not proud of what you've done, not that you are positive, but when it's not about you, when you go and join the military and you have the mission isn't about you. It's about the whole. It's about everybody that serves with you. And it's about the people that you're protecting. When Jesus came down, he knew that he would have to give his life for the people. And even when the cup was so difficult to drink from, not my will, but yours. Your cup may be a difficult cup at this moment, but can you find his will for you in that cup? So we kind of took some turns tonight, navigated some different things. I appreciate my brother Alan for posing those questions. I appreciate my brother Willie for coming in with some great insight. As I leave you all tonight, as we still are in the midst of COVID-19 in this season, my challenge to you and what I want to leave you with, and this will empower you. And this, if you do this, this will take you further than any kind of wealth, health, anything. Anything. If you take these principles, they will take you further and they will make everything else work so much easier. So, 3 things: empty yourself, humble yourself, love and serve others. The challenge then, as you do these 3 things, is to take another or have another 3 things. Figure out what 3 things I can do next week to repair a relationship, strengthen relationship, create a new relationship. Repair a relationship, meaning whoever it is, it could be anybody, family, friends, whoever. Repair a relationship that you know that, hey, I have been holding this, and it may not even be you. It may be them holding something against you, and you know it. Just say, look, honestly, I don't even know how we got to where we are, but I want to do something different. How can we repair a relationship? Build a relationship. That may be, hey, I don't talk to my sister all the time, so let me start regularly communicating with my sister, my brother, my mother, my father. Grow or create a new relationship. Who is it that you may have come in contact with that you may know? Or is there someone that maybe have tried to reach out to you and you just haven't had the time? Grow a new relationship. If you're at home in COVID-19 and you have your family with you, find different times where you can spend some one-on-one time with each individual and grow the relationship. Today, me and my son went outside. We did our one-on-one time together, and we were just spraying weeds, spraying them to kill them. And he said to me, he said, you know what, this is actually, he said, he he said, I don't know the word. It's not fun. It's not fun but I'm enjoying it. I said, oh, is it peaceful? He said, yeah, it's peaceful. And he said to me, he said, you know what? I didn't think it would be. I said, you thought you'd be bored, didn't you? And I said to him, but this is us just spending some time to talk. Spraying the weeds is just the activity. But we're actually building. So I encourage you that if you don't have that, and make it purposeful. I was gonna let y'all go, but I can't let y'all go without saying this. Too many times, let me take it back. We have allowed society to tell us that if relationships are great, then they just flow and that you don't have to work to make it good. If you have the proper relationship, it just works. It's just good. It just flows. I don't do anything. It's natural. That's not true. Anything worth having is worth working for. And it takes work to build solid relationships. If you talk to any couple that's been married 30 years or more, they will tell you that their relationship stayed strong or made it through tough times. And I don't care who, I have never talked to somebody that's been married over 30 years that told me that they didn't have one tough time. What they did have was communication and work and a choice they made to stick it out and do the work. So I said that to say this. Because you schedule one-on-one time, don't think that, oh man, I'm scheduling the time, so it shouldn't be this way. No, it should be that way. You should schedule that time to be purposeful, intentional. It's about the intent. I'm making sure that one-on-one time exists so we can grow. So make sure that in your relationships, you be purposeful, you be mindful, and you be intentional. Don't leave anything to chance. I appreciate you all for spending time with me on Resurrection Sunday, Easter Sunday. I just ask that you guys be mindful, be intentional, be purposeful. Empty yourself, humble yourself, love and serve. Reach out to somebody. 3 things you can do for somebody this week. And if you do these things, and if you do them consistently, you will be empowered to reach your goals. And that empowerment from doing these things will take you further than anything else. If you're serving him, if you're doing his will, if you're operating in your gift, living out your life purposeful, you will be successful. You will have an empowerment that I can't give you. No matter what words I say, it'll never come to the empowerment that you can have when you have God in your life and you allow him to be in your life and on your side. Have a good night, family. I'll see you next week.